Aloha, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Talk Story with House Majority. My name is Della Albalati, and I serve as the House Majority Leader for the Hawaii State Legislature. This week at the Capitol, we wrapped up our mandatory 5-day recess, and today is actually the first decking deadline for bills, which means a bill must be submitted or decked in its final form to be considered for passage on the third reading by its originating House. In other news, the first bill of this session was signed into law this week by Governor David Ige. House Bill 1278, or caps the increases on unemployment assessments through 2022 and eases some of the burdens on all businesses in Hawaii as they continue to face the lingering economic impacts of the pandemic. This week, our episode centers around the theme of human services. With us, we have Representative Linda Ichiyama, who chairs the House's new Committee on Pandemic and Disaster Preparedness. Cathy Betts from the Department of Human Services to discuss safety net programs and general assistance benefits, and Judy Mohr Peterson, Hawaii's Medicaid Director, who will be joining us to discuss health insurance enrollment. So let's introduce our first guest. Welcome, Representative Ichiyama. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much for having me.
You have been doing some tremendous work with our newest committee. Can you give our audience a sense of what was the impetus behind the creation of this committee?
So the Committee on Pandemic and Disaster Preparedness was created last November, in large part out of response to the current pandemic. But we were really tasked with a fundamental question of how can state government overall better respond to all types of disasters? So while we are focused primarily now on pandemic response, we're also looking at natural disasters and man-made disasters. But the thought is that we need to approach it holistically and not to get siloed in certain subject matter areas, but look at it as state government overall. And how do we provide a better, comprehensive, coordinated approach?
So I like this kind of short-term, long-term approach that you have. What's been your immediate priorities as chair?
So one of the things that we focused on was a vaccine distribution. We've had 3 informational briefings joint with the Senate Health Committee. We've been doing it on a monthly basis, and because things change so rapidly, it's been a really good opportunity to work closely with the Department of Health and vaccine providers to give the public the most up-to-date information about vaccine distribution. We've also been meeting with various stakeholders to try and get a better understanding of how the pandemic has affected their operations. And for state agencies, especially their budget. I think everybody's aware of the current fiscal situation that we're in, but how do we make government run more efficiently on a tighter budget?
Yeah, and something that's kind of put a pause in that is that everyone is right now waiting to see what the federal government is going to do. So that also plays into this whole pandemic response. On the vaccination, I know that you were instrumental along with Speaker Psyche in setting up the vaccination centers. So those informational briefings, the work done by the committee has been really important to make sure that people know where they can go. I really appreciate that. In addition to the vaccines, what are 1 or 2 other hot topic bills in addition to the priorities that we've already discussed here, have been heard and managed in your committee?
So some of them are updates to our emergency chapter under HRS 127A. So a good example is the penalty section. Any violation of an emergency order is a full misdemeanor. Somebody can be subject up to a year in prison, and that's the only penalty. And I think that shows really that our chapter wasn't built for pandemics. We weren't built for, minor level of violations like not wearing your mask or not following social distancing or gathering restrictions. So one important change that we're looking at is to create more of a spectrum for any violations of emergency order. It could be a fine, it could be a violation, a petty misdemeanor, all the way up to a full misdemeanor.
Really giving flexibility to the people who have to enforce it. I know that you're also doing work with Ichiyama and DOD. For those of us who for the public who doesn't know, what is Ichiyama? What is Chapter 127A?
So that's a really good question. Chapter 127A is the chapter that governs when a state of emergency can be declared. What are the authorities, either the mayor or the governor, when a state of emergency is declared? So, for example, this is a chapter that allows a governor or mayor to suspend certain laws to ask workers to perform certain functions, to quarantine, for example. It's very broad reaching. And so we're also having discussions with HIEMA. So HIEMA, Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, is a part of the Department of Defense, and it's housed within the Department of Defense. So we're also having a discussion about whether or not it should be an attached agency and also report directly to the governor. I think that there was a lot of confusion amongst state agencies and departments at the beginning of this pandemic. So having a cabinet level position to provide that coordination across all state agencies, I think could be very valuable in future disasters.
And I think you've hit on it, right? We might be living with pandemics of these type for a while. We don't know what COVID-19 is going to do. We don't know if there might be a future medical pandemic that we're going to have to deal with. So this is a kind of restructuring of government that the House is interested in that can help us moving into the future.
Yes, yes. And I've asked that question of our state epidemiologist, Dr. Sarah Campbell, how do we know when the pandemic is over? And her answer was, we probably won't know until after that's happened, right? Historically, if you look at the Spanish flu, they didn't know until several years later, okay, this is when we can say the pandemic was over. It's always making sure that we have good surveillance systems, good testing capabilities, especially with these variants, to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve and making sure our community is prepared.
So there's a lot of focus in your committee on the medical preparedness, dealing with the health pandemic, but your committee is also concerned with economic recovery to some degree. And your committee's been working with assisting community and small businesses to adapt to the pandemic. Can you discuss some of the ways that the committee has been working with small businesses and small organizations in our community?
Sure. So one of the big initiatives last year was when we received the CARES funding. The legislature set aside over $60 million for purchasing personal protective equipment, or PPE, face shields, gloves, gowns, booties, or hair coverings. And we wanted to make those freely accessible to small businesses, childcare, elder care, hospitals, and schools, so that staff and students or residents of a long-term care facility would have access to PPE and feel safe. So that was one of our initiatives. And more recently in the committee, we just passed House Bill 1324 to create a commercial rent relief program. And this would be if we receive federal funds. We're looking at ways that we can help small businesses who may have fallen behind in rent and we're not eligible for prior relief. So that's one of the examples from this session.
And that's a really critical example because we've seen a lot of folks, a lot of different individuals and small businesses get relief, but not necessarily commercial rent relief. So that is something I believe that Representative Ty Cullen has also been working on. In fact, that's Representative Ty Cullen's bill.
Yes.
So again, that's another example of we're also waiting to see what the federal funds are going to do. Do you have any thoughts? This is a little question I'm throwing out at you, a little bit out of the blue, but what are your thoughts about the federal funds that might be coming down?
That's, I think, an open question. We're all anxiously monitoring what Congress is doing and what the Senate will pass out. I think in the last version that I saw, there was roughly $350 billion set aside for state and local governments. But the guardrails around what that money can be used for seem to be still amorphous and being worked on. But essentially COVID relief, so similar to the coronavirus relief funds that we received last year. I think the open question is whether or not it could be used to address budget shortfalls. And that would be a key question for us as our economy has been so heavily impacted by COVID-19, whether or not we can use it to help plug the pukas in the state budget.
So we're all going to be eagerly awaiting that. I know that your committee is going to be part of those conversations. Thank you, Chair Ichiyama, for sharing all of this important information and the work and progress of your committee. So, on that note about local businesses, let's take a look at what several local businesses are doing to adapt to these pandemic conditions by visiting with Representative Scott Nishimoto in District 21. He takes us to Diamond Head Theater, the famous Leonard's Bakery, and Scoops High, a small business that took root recently in McCully at the beginning of the pandemic. Let's check it out.
Hi, I'm State Representative Scott Nishimoto, and welcome to my district. This is one of the true gems of my district. We're at Diamond Head Theater. I've been on the community board for a while. I've also been a season ticket holder for about a decade. So I'm really committed to the theater. I want to introduce Dina Dre to talk a little bit about the history of the theater and what's going on.
Right, so this theater was established in 1915. A group of community members got together and did play readings, and it grew into a full-fledged community theater. It's grown a lot in the 105 years that we've been around, and we're continuing to grow by bringing our community the best in live theatrical entertainment. We call ourselves the Broadway of the Pacific, so we don't expect people to think this is Broadway, but we want them to know that that's the type of show we do.
So I am a huge fan of Diamond Head Theater, and I know that you folks have really pivoted during the pandemic. So can you explain some of the innovative things you did during the first part of this pandemic?
Sure. So we were stunned, as everyone was, by what was happening to our community under COVID, and we scrambled to find some way to keep ourselves doing theatrical productions, and we came up with drive-ins in our parking lot. And we have a loading dock that sticks out the back of the theater, and it was perfect because they would be up above the cars and visible, and everybody had a great time. Now, the only disadvantage, of course, it was tiny compared to what our full house would be as far as audience members. So,
well, now that we're moving into less restrictions, can you explain what you've done to the theater so that you can welcome more people back?
Exactly. So we now are welcoming 125 patrons. That's quite a bit less than our usual 475. But we wanted to make people feel okay about coming back. So we have skipped every other row for the last couple of shows. Starting on March 12th, we're still going to have 125. And then a week later, Tier 3 holding strong, we will go to 250, which still gives everybody a staggered seat. There's not somebody directly in front of you. And we have a protocol for people entering and exiting. So you go out by row, so we don't have a bunch of crowding in the aisles. You come in one at a time. We tell people to stay in their cars until the 7 o'clock when the show starts. They line up socially distant outside. They go through a temperature robot, hand sanitizer. They find their own seats. They don't have any tickets. There's no playbills. So we're really making it as comfortable as we can make it for people to feel safe.
And another really important aspect about Diamond Head Theater is that you folks offer classes.
We do, and that's been a big challenge because Zoom classes aren't quite as engaging as in-person classes. So now going into Tier 3, we are so excited because we'll be able to have 10 people in a classroom, well, 9 with the instructor. So we're probably going to do a hybrid. We're really excited about welcoming our students back.
So are there any other programs that you guys do here besides the classes and the Great Place?
You know, it's mostly entertainment and education, but also the third leg of our stool really is volunteers. And we have a robust volunteer program because people love to help out, whether they're painting the sets or ushering, or eventually when we get back to selling snacks.
And I can attest that they take good care of their volunteers. They have a big lunch picnic once a year. I've volunteered at it.
Scott has helped serve food.
That's right, and they recognize all their volunteers.
Right, we do. Because volunteers really are the heartbeat of community theaters. I mean, we could never put on the shows we do. All the cast members are volunteers, all the crew are volunteers, the people in the audience, I mean the ushers and ticket takers are volunteers. So volunteerism is really, really important to us, and we need to make people feel appreciated, and we need to let them know how grateful we are for having them. So it's great.
Thank you so much for having us here.
Sure. Happy to have you. Come see our shows and get your kids back in the classes.
We will. We'll definitely do that.
Great.
Hey Dina, thanks so much for showing me around the site. Can you talk a little bit about the new theater?
Sure. So this has been in the process for since 2007. We started planning, we started looking at, we needed to rehab this building. Should we try to reconstruct it or should we build brand new? We found out we needed to build brand new. It just wouldn't hold up. It was 1930s USO movie house, just doesn't have the infrastructure.
Wow.
Then we did a site development plan and we said, can we build on the same site? Because I cannot imagine where we would go if we tore this down and had to build from this position. So we found out we could. We have room here. So we're building right next door, going up to the hillside. Had to go through a lot of processing and permitting to get to this day, but we broke ground around October, very quiet ceremony with just a kahu to bless the grounds and make sure we were operating safely and spiritually.
Good.
And then we've been working forward ever since. It's been exciting to see construction. The fence going up was a big day for us. The staff feels very kind of excited and emotional about this actually happening now after such a long planning process.
Can you talk a little bit about what's the difference going to be between the new theater and the old one?
So the new theater will be state-of-the-art. That's the biggest difference. Technology, having a fly loft, and what that means is there's a place for the scenery to go up into instead of rattling off to the side
So
like it does now.
the current theater doesn't have the room to go up and down, right? So you got to go side to side
It was
on
built as
it.
a movie house, right?
Okay.
Not as a live theater. So the fly loft was a big improvement for us, will be a big improvement for us. Seamless set changes, a lot faster. The shows will just move quicker because like Broadway, when they pick the stuff up, the next scene comes right on the stage.
Right.
Seats will be bigger and at a different pitch, so you'll have a better view.
Oh, good.
You won't be bobbing between other people as you look at the show.
One thing that you're really excited about is you're starting to show shows again.
Yes.
With this
Right.
this
So
one, Shout.
We've been kind of tiptoeing a little bit with a couple of shows, a couple of plays.
Okay.
This is our first big musical in
Good.
our season. New kind of, we're calling it the Pandemic Adapted Performance Series.
Okay.
So we're doing like kind of a mini pop-up season, and it opens March 12th
Good. And how can people get tickets?
online.
Online, okay.
www.diamondheadtheater.com.
Good.
Super easy.
Come check it out.
So Reverend Nishimoto, thank you for inviting me to your district. Can you tell me where we are?
So we are at world famous Leonard's Bakery. Great place to get malasadas and other pastries. As you can see, there's a long line always at this place. It's popular with tourists and locals. What's significant for me, not only the great food, is that I grew up right up the street here on Charles Street.
Oh, wow.
So my family house was up the street here. My dad was raised in that house, and then I lived in that house too.
Well, this is iconic. So how many malasadas did you eat when you were growing up?
I can't count, too many to count, but I can remember walking down the street to buy it very often.
Now, what's your favorite malasada here?
So I'm a traditionalist. I gotta get the straight plain malasada.
Okay.
They're all good. The cinnamon one is good. The ones with filling are good. But I'm old school, so it's gotta be the regular plain.
Yummy, 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 yummy.
We are in Mohr with one of my favorite small businesses, Scoop Scoop. Great sherbet place, outstanding customer service, and we're here with the owner, Tiffany. Thanks for being here, Tiffany.
So what inspired you to make sherbet? I used to experiment with like little homemade cups of like Judy style stuff for my son, and then I let my friends try it and they all loved it. So we kind of started to experiment with other flavors and stuff.
So you are the chef.
Oh yeah, basically.
Right on. So my favorite flavors are Shmeen Green, the orange creamsicle, and strawberry. What are the most popular flavors?
So the Shmeen Green and the orange creamsicle, those are actually special, so we don't have them all the time. But from our regular flavors, I would say that the Leaping Way Belt and the honeydew are really popular, and then strawberry is also really popular. It's just like a safe flavor that everyone likes to try first.
And give the address, your physical address.
It's 1915 South King Street in Mohr.
Okay, and you guys also do some things at farmers markets, or?
Yeah, so we've been experimenting a lot with popping up at like food truck fest, and we're looking into getting into more areas of the island, because we've been mostly in town or central, so we're trying to get on like, the west side or east side.
Okay. Well, come check them out. You can't miss the building. It's orange. It's got these characters on the outside, and great product.
Let's get some ice cream.
Yep, sounds good.
It's so great to see the resilience of these small businesses and how Diamond Head Theater has adapted to hold live performances, something that has been missing in a lot of people's lives this past year. Returning to the live portion of our show, I have a new guest to introduce. Please welcome the director of the Hawaii State Department of Human Services, Cathy Betts.
Aloha, thanks for having me.
Cathy. Welcome, Cathy. I'm so glad you're able to make it today. But before we jump into your interview, Linda and I wanted to first embarrass you just a little bit and publicly congratulate you as the Hawaii Women's Legal Foundation's 2021 recipient of the Rhoda Lewis Award. In normal times, we'd be at a big party to recognize you with the Rhoda Lewis Award, named after the first female member of the Hawaii Supreme Court. This award is annually presented to a woman attorney who has devoted her career to public service. Consistent with the spirit of this award, you truly embody someone who has toiled in the trenches, one of the, quote, unsung heroes who has worked to improve the lives of women and children in Hawaii. I wanted to give Linda a moment to say anything she'd like to say to you.
Congratulations, Director Betts. This award is going to go to anybody more deserving.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you both so much. So much appreciated. Thank you.
So the three of us, I think, have walked the journey of being attorneys, law students from UH Law School, but Cathy truly has just toiled in the fields, first as a law student, as a Mink Fellow, as an Attorney General, as an Executive Director of the State Commission on the Status of Women, Deputy Director. You've done it all, Cathy. Any takeaways, any reflections you have for a young female attorney out there?
Two things. Hard work is hard work. You just got to put in the time to make it happen, to make things happen quickly, and don't be afraid of trying, because you won't find out if you're successful if you don't try. Two things I try to live by.
Words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Complete words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Cathy. So let's jump into your interview. You lead a very important department, especially now more than ever. We're seeing record use of the safety net programs that your department oversees, SNAP, early childcare programs, and so much more. Can you start off by giving us a brief snapshot of what it is that the Department of Human Services does and how it helps people in the community, maybe with the General Assistance Program first?
Sure, Representative. Thanks for that question. You know, it's a very large and complex department. We've got 4 divisions, attached agencies, attached commissions, staff offices statewide, usually around 2,000 employees statewide as well. So it's a large department. For General Assistance, it's a program that provides cash benefits for food, clothing, shelter, and other essentials to adults ages 18 through 64 that don't have children, don't have minor dependents, but are temporarily disabled and unable to work. They probably do not qualify for Social Security. And so they have to actually, in order to be eligible, they must have little or no income and not qualify for other federal assistance. And then they also have to be certified by a DHS medical board to be unable to engage in any substantial employment for 30 hours or more. So these are folks that get monthly payments from the Department of Human Services, 100% state funded, general funds. And we are experiencing about a 30% increase from this time last year.
So can you, discuss the urgency with addressing general assistance benefits during this pandemic and maybe within the next couple of weeks or a month or so?
Sure. Because of the pandemic's impact on economy and the need for folks to have access to more benefits from our department, we've seen a surge in applicants for general assistance, such as at the point that we're almost exhausting the funds to support the GA program. So as of December 2020, we had about 6,700 individuals receiving GA, which, as I mentioned before, is 30% up from this time last year. And so we do need an emergency appropriation or some of our bills to pass through the legislature this year in order to ensure that there's ample funding to support general assistance program moving forward.
So that's general assistance, but you have other programs. Can you tell me a little bit about the SNAP benefits that you folks also provide?
Sure. So our SNAP benefits, we were really able to, I know that everybody uses the word pivot a lot these days, but we were really able to adapt. We applied for federal waivers and successfully received them to expedite benefits. So those are supplemental nutritional assistance program benefits, or what they were formerly known as food stamps. So that's cash assistance on an EBT card for folks to purchase food for their families. We also received 2 rounds of federal aid called PEBT, so Pandemic EBT for Children, who would be usually eligible for free and reduced lunch. So we dispersed millions of dollars of food benefits for families in Hawaii to purchase food. We set up virtual call centers staffed by DHS employees to ensure that residents could get through on the line to check on the status of their applications. And also through the federal government, we were able to implement a SNAP increase of 15%. So folks will get the maximum amount possible for their households. And that started in January of 2021, and that'll go through June 2021.
Chair Ichiyama, did you want to weigh in on any of these? Because I know that food insecurity was a concern in the early part of the pandemic. We saw a lot of food drives, SNAP benefits. These increases have helped also to ensure food security. Any other thoughts, or did you want to jump in on anything about SNAP or food insecurity?
Thank Director Betts, because all of the constituents that I've referred to SNAP have been very thankful that their applications have been processed in such a quick and efficient manner. And I think that really speaks to the hard work of your team and staff on the ground for turning around these applications so quickly.
Absolutely, Representative. As I mentioned, we were able to adapt very quickly, and especially thanks to the legislature for your sound wisdom in providing us CRF funds to really be able to pivot to telework and ensure that folks, anybody else during a non-pandemic, they would just have their personal cell phone, not a work cell phone or a work laptop for home, et cetera. So it made it very difficult in those first days to really ensure that our staff had all the tools and technology to ensure, utmost capacity to serve our residents that are in need. And we were able to really adapt quickly to do that and to ensure that most of our needy residents are taken care of. So thank you.
Another area of responsibility for you and your department, Cathy, is early child care programs. And I know, again, this is an area that Chair Ichiyama has really been focused on. But can you explain a little bit about the early child care programs that are still in place now?
Sure. So we license, we're the regulatory authority for childcare providers across the state. Early on, we did receive and expend additional childcare development block grant funds, which we call CCDBG. I know it's a mouthful. We provided extra funds through grants to childcare providers to safely stay open or reopen. We waived our income eligibility for childcare subsidies, which is a big deal. So those subsidies are funds that go directly to families for childcare. We additionally received $15 million in coronavirus relief funds, and Representative Ichiyama was instrumental in that. So we were able to partner with Hawaii Community Foundation to quickly set up a childcare grant program to provide funds to those providers. And as Rep. Ichiyama also mentioned, we ensured that providers quickly received PPE, so they felt safe reopening or staying open. A lot of our childcare providers stayed open from the beginning. Obviously, they've had diminished capacity because they have distancing requirements and smaller pods of children. So that's made it a struggle for this group of providers. And right now we're actively engaging with our providers to ensure that they can be vaccinated, so they can also have an extra layer of feeling support and cared for. Because I think that there's a lot of focus on educational institutions, and people forget that childcare providers have been open for essential workers since the very beginning, and they go to work and put their life in many respects on the line to ensure our keiki are well cared for and loved.
Chair Ichiyama, did you want to chime in on any of this, the child care programs, or maybe what we might be seeing from the federal government, or anything on this topic? Because I know this is near and dear to your heart.
Yes, it is. I'm the mother of 2 toddlers, and I could not do this job without childcare. So childcare is absolutely essential for me. Director, do you have any advice for a parent who maybe needs childcare and can't afford it, and whether that might be for a toddler or a school-age child? Where can they find resources and help?
They can apply online for childcare subsidies. It's humanservices.hawaii.gov. All of our services and benefits are there on our website. I would encourage them to not, discount themselves as possibly not being eligible for the benefits. I'd say that for any benefit across our department, that if you think you might be eligible, just go ahead and apply and see. The childcare subsidies are there for a reason. They're really there to help support working families that are the backbone of our economy at this point, and have long been. So I would encourage folks to apply online to see if they're eligible.
Thanks for that question, Chair. One last area, Director Betts. Does DHS oversee any workforce development programs, and can you share that information with us?
Absolutely. So one of our core divisions, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, or DVR, they provide services to Hawaii community members who experience barriers to employment, such as a physical or cognitive disability. So they are designed to assist job seekers with disabilities to prepare, secure, retain competitive employment in an integrated work setting. So we are also actively collaborating with Workforce Development Council of Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, Workforce Resiliency Initiative. Wow, that was a mouthful. So we're working on retraining, upskilling, and stewarding Hawaii's workforce as we adapt to this new time. Last item is our First to Work program, which is part of our BESD division. They are just starting a pilot to integrate public health nurse services to address the health and well-being of First to Work participants, their children, and their family units. So the target population for these services are participants who are pregnant and those with children between the ages of 0 and 8 years old. And that's a collaborative effort with Department of Health, who just recently hired 3 new public health nurses in November to specifically assign to the First to Work pilot. So those are two units on Oahu that are starting that. I guess last item, sorry, I thought I was on the last item, but I have one more. We're collaborating with the Broadband Hui on their digital literacy and digital sovereignty subcommittees to ensure individuals have access to computers and digital job training. So a lot of interesting collaborative efforts. I think what the pandemic has taught a lot of us is that collaboration is key. Cross collaboration with other public and private sector entities is absolutely crucial to reaching the breadth of folks that really need the assistance at this point in time.
You know, that's a great place, and we actually have a minute or so more. But Chair Ichiyama, did you want to leave the public, our audience, with any last thoughts, about the pandemic, how we're approaching it, how we might continue to approach it as we move forward through the session?
Sure. I think that, kind of tying the two themes together of pandemic response and safety net programs is that our entire community has gone through an unprecedented trauma. And I think that we all have to be cognizant that the impacts of this trauma are going to be felt for years. And the more supports that we can put around families who are undergoing enormous financial, emotional, mental stress, I think the better it will be for our state in the long run to prevent adverse childhood experiences and all of the other social impacts that we know happen when society goes through trauma.
Thank you so much, Chair Ichiyama. Thank you, Director Betts. It was really, really great to hear about the variety and the types of services, and then the numbers of residents who are really accessing these important services. We'll make sure that they have all of this, all the important contact information that you've given us, and we'll connect them with your department. With more people getting the help, with more people getting the help that they need, with more people getting the vaccines, with more people getting out and involved in their communities, we have a second community spotlight to share with you. For this one, I have visited Representative Bert Kobayashi of District 19, where we look at how 2 industries, the culinary world and the natural resources and tourism sector, have adapted to pandemic conditions as we look to reopen more and more of our economy.
We are now at Kapiolani Community College, Culinary Institute of the Pacific. And with us, we have Dean John Richards of the Culinary Institute. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us what we have here at the Culinary Institute.
It is such a pleasure to share this with you this morning. This has been a 20-year journey getting the Culinary Institute of the Pacific up and running. A lot of amazing people have worked together over a number of years and got through a number of hurdles to bring this to fruition here on Diamond Head, of all things. So Culinary Institute of the Pacific at Diamond Head this campus is designed to be our advanced culinary campus, where all of the community colleges, when you graduate with an associate degree, can come to Diamond Head for advanced culinary training, food innovation, research and development, nutrition, advanced cuisines as well, competition, things like that, that takes our students from kind of an entry-level qualification of skills into a more advanced way to move into some of the other areas besides just being a cook or a chef, the research people, the manufacturing people, the distribution people. So we work on all those fronts. So currently we have 300 students. We've been decreasing enrollment over the last number of years because the industry is desperate to hire everybody. With COVID, we actually haven't gone backwards. We're still maintaining our enrollment. There's hospitality and restaurant management training courses that we're developing when we open the entire campus. We work with all the community colleges. We have different relationships with each community college to bring the network together for the entire state, to be able to have this feeders all over the state to feed this campus in the advanced studies, which articulates to UH Manoa in culinology, food science, and nutrition, and West Oahu for culinary management business.
Okay. Tell us about this facility here on the slopes of Diamond Head, which I believe is only half finished. Tell us what we have here and what we will have when everything is complete.
So phase one, we opened about 3 years ago to a really amazing opening. I was pretty new here at that time.
This is phase one.
This is phase one, thank you. And it includes the entire infrastructure for the entire campus. We have this advanced Pacific Asian lab that we're in right now. We have our temporary innovation lab next door. It looks just like this, but it has a different focus. We have student locker rooms, restrooms, and a student lounge that are built. So that's phase one, and again, the entire infrastructure is in place to be able to complete the campus.
By infrastructure, you mean water, sewer,
thank you, yes.
Electricity, the road.
Correct. All that's been done, so all we have to do is tap into what we did 3 years ago. Then there's also the restaurant at Diamond Head, which is, I think it's going to be the most anticipated opening of a restaurant in decades, I think. So there's no pressure there. It kind of sits on top of the auditorium. So we have a restaurant, beautiful view.
And I understand that the restaurant will have the super $1 million view of all of Waikiki.
The view is amazing. Diamond Head, Pacific Ocean, Waikiki, Honolulu, then the valleys. And then down another level is this auditorium, which is really a food and wine innovation studio. It is a high definition television studio where we can bring in everything that we're doing at our culinary and hospitality programs and stream it live to the world.
Great. So it sounds both exciting and delicious.
It is very exciting. So we're just so excited to have this opportunity to become a real voice in the culinary world globally. I think we're going to connect East and West in food culture, every kind of discussion of food culture. I think the thing that we're proud of today, most proud of today, is that chefs can do anything. If you've got a problem, give it to a chef.
Sounds like a very bright future.
It
Thank
is.
you very much.
My great pleasure. Thank you.
We are in Diamond Head Crater, and we have with us Cassandra Springer, who will tell us something about Diamond Head State Monument. Cassandra?
So Diamond Head State Monument is a natural national landmark. Pre-COVID, we had about 1 million visitors per year, over 3,000 people per day. Now that we've reopened December 17th, 2020, we're seeing about half that number. Masks required at all times, and people, I believe, have really been enjoying coming here and hiking the trail. It is 0.8 miles all the way to the summit with an elevation of 762 feet. On average, it would take about an hour and a half for somebody to start here all the way to the summit, about 45 minutes each way. You want to take your time. It doesn't take everyone an hour and a half. Sometimes I get people that jog it within 20 minutes up and down. Entry fee for visitors is $5 each to walk in, $10 to park, and for Kama'aina, it's free. So Diamond Head was formed about 300,000 years ago in a very short but explosive eruption. So we are formed very fragile, made out of tuff, which is ash and cinder. So I recommend everyone to stay on the trail at all times, because if they go off trail, it causes a lot more erosion and we're gonna lose our monument that much faster. Drink plenty of water, bring good walking shoes, always wear your mask, sunscreen if you need it, hydrate. Hydrate's the biggest thing. 2019, we had the most helicopter rescues in the state, and that's mostly due to dehydration.
What does the Diamond Head State Monument include inside and outside the rim?
So Diamond Head State Monument includes Fort Ruger Park, the Fort Ruger Trail, where we have the Brian Clay exercise equipment. And then we have 2 informational kiosks on each side, one on Montserrat, one on 22nd Ave. And that's all part of state parks. And then it also includes the road up through the tunnel at Diamond Head, and then includes the majority, about 75% of inside the crater.
Thank you very much, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kobayashi, for having me visit your community. As we see more and more of these places open up, whether it's the Culinary Institute at KCC or Diamond Head State National Monument Park, we really continue to work through the disruptions caused by this pandemic. One of those sets of disruptions has been people's concern with the loss of healthcare insurance, especially during a medical pandemic. So I'd like to introduce, as our third guest this afternoon, Judy Mohr Peterson, PhD, the MedQuest Division Administrator for the State of Hawaii's Department of Human Services. That's quite a mouthful, but aloha, Judy, welcome.
Aloha, thank you so much for having me.
So, what are the health options that are out there available to those in the public who may have recently lost their jobs or lost their job-based health insurance coverage?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. And we do know that many people have lost their health insurance coverage. And we're very happy and very pleased that we can be here as a Medicaid agency to be able to be that safety net for access to health insurance. In the last 10 months, we've actually seen our enrollment grow by over 20%. It's up around 24%. Over 400,000 people now are on or covered by Quest, which is what we call our Medicaid program. And we're open all the time. In other words, if you were to lose your health insurance or not have access to it, you can always come and apply. And just like Director Betts was outlining before, you can find that information on the DHS website. But besides that, many people, they may not qualify for Medicaid. And there are other options for them. Earlier there was an open enrollment on something called the Marketplace, the federal Marketplace. Some people may be more familiar with that, as they might know it as Obamacare or something like that. So we do have that as an option that's going on right now. Now, if you were to lose your health insurance, that would be considered like a special occurrence or a special event that would allow you to apply on the Marketplace coverage. But what's going on right now between February 15th and May 15th is another open enrollment time period. And that's for anyone who's uninsured right now, whether you've lost your job or you've just been uninsured. And this is, as you noted before, a global pandemic. It's a medical emergency. And so you may need and want health insurance. So now is the time in which you can apply for that. So you can apply on what's called on healthcare.gov. So and it's healthcare.gov. To pay attention to that last little bit there. There's some other entities that will pop up if you don't use that one. You can also call, and if you call in, then you can also receive special language assistance. So you don't speak English and you need some extra help, they can get some additional help on for you. I have that number and I can read it out. I have to look it up here. And so that phone number is 1-800-318-2596. Again, that is for the marketplace, the federal marketplace, which some people may know as Obamacare.
I think that's interesting you call it Obamacare, because some people are now seeing it as Biden care. The open enrollment was in fact because President Biden has now, by executive order, said, let's reopen this. We have millions and millions of people who need health insurance, and this is the way that we can do it. So that's what we're doing, right? And I thank you for sharing that information.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting, and we're very pleased that is another option. We've already started to see, we just checked, and we started to see Hawaii residents already started to apply at much greater numbers than even in the prior two open enrollment time periods. So it's good news. I hope if people do find themselves uninsured, they will take advantage of this opportunity. It's vital to have health insurance, especially during a pandemic.
Thank you. And thank you for all of the incredible work that you're doing with Medicaid, Judy. You know, let's get a little bit of wonky here. There are some.
I like wonky.
You know, I like wonky, and Medicaid is so complicated. And I know that we brought you out. We stole you. I will say that right off the bat. We stole you from Oregon, and we brought you out here. Medicaid is really doing quite a number of interesting things. And so can you talk about some of those, kind of just your short and long-term thoughts about what Medicaid and Hawaii's Medicaid program is doing?
Yeah, thank you for that question. You know, it's hard to picture like working on these things because we've been so focused on the pandemic for the past year. We put a number of things on the side and didn't, sort of put them aside as we've really focused quite a bit on responding to the pandemic. But we had in the works, and we still have in the works, several approaches or several perspectives that we're trying to build up. I think about it as using both a short-term investment approach and a long-term investment approach to healthcare and transforming the way in which care is done in practice. So in talking about the short-term investment strategy, that's to really focus on in what ways can we improve care for people who have really complex health needs. They might have diabetes along with serious mental illness. And traditionally, those two types of healthcare systems, mental health and medical, they don't sort of talk to each other. They don't work together very well. And it's very fragmented types of care. So in order to improve care, we need to have those different healthcare systems working together in team-based care, sharing that information together, working with the person to help improve their care. If we know that if we do that, if we improve that integration of care, that not only does it help the person improve their care and they have better health and better health outcomes, it helps the bottom line. Healthcare is expensive. There's a lot of dollars that flow into healthcare. And this is a way in which you can use those dollars more efficiently and effectively. So it's really it's an excellent way to improve health, improve well-being, and to help save a dollar and use those dollars in a more wise way. The other thing, and this is what the prior speakers were discussing, and that's really a focus and an investment on young children and their families. And so one way to do that is by focusing on primary care, focusing on health, promotion, helping to make sure that kids can get into care, they get their well child visits, they get their immunizations, so that they can do well in school, they can do well when they're they can just do well in their at home. So we've been looking at many different ways that we can help kids' behavioral health, how we can help make sure that we can improve the screenings, and making sure that we can help get more kids in to get their vaccinations, which are so important to kids' overall health. We've also been partnering with the schools to help have stronger partnerships there. We're working with, we're partnering with a group called Project Vision and Vision to Learn to improve vision screenings and glasses for kids in schools. So we have lots of different partnerships that were kind of put on hold for a little while, and now people are reaching out to us, and we're reaching out to them to revisit those. So that's kind of a long-term investment, because those strategies of investing in kids and kids' health and families, that pays off in the long years down the line. We've seen a drop-off during the pandemic of kids coming in for their care. So I would be remiss if I didn't have that message, that public service announcement, that please take your kids in for their well child visits, go see the doctor, their pediatricians. They're set up to help you and take care of your kid in a safe way.
You know, I'm listening to you talk and hearing you talk about partnerships and collaboration, and I know you work very well with Eddie Mercero, who was a guest on this show several episodes ago. I also know you're working very well with Chair Yamani, who now has oversight of Health and Human Services, kind of a nod to this notion that we have to combine these two areas.
Yes, that's right. We have really strong partnerships. We've been working really closely with the Behavioral Health Administration for a number of years, but particularly since Eddie's come on board, and then now with Chair Yamane, and looking for ways in which Medicaid can partner more strongly and better with behavioral health, with mental health and substance use treatment. I'm thinking about it more from a continuum of care, and not from, well, we cover up to here, and then that's not us, after on this side of the fence, that's you. And so we're instead trying to think about, well, what's the continuum of care, everything from residential treatment, which is the highest intensive treatment, which is also needed, all the way down to the community-based care, outpatient treatment, et cetera. In what ways can we partner together for the best use of those resources, be it paid for by behavioral health, or be it paid for by Medicaid and supported by our programs. So which ways can we partner and really have that handshake together in working together? Another key area, which I don't know if you would be bringing it up or not, is actually on the homelessness area, which is also an area that Chair Imani, he chairs health, human services,
That's right,
and homelessness. So it's the 3 H's. And I think it's really indicative of the fact that there is this really strong nexus where, of course, there's a lot of behavioral health that doesn't involve human services or homelessness. There's people who are homeless who don't have behavioral health needs, et cetera. But we do know that the individuals who have both behavioral health needs, either be it substance use or mental health, they are also homeless. We've done a lot of partnership and a lot of work in the Medicaid space in that area as well. We asked for special permission to be able to cover additional services by Medicaid. so that we can bring some additional dollars in, some additional supports in to help address that. It's taken us a couple of years to get off the ground, and I would say that we're still in that kind of baby step area. We're very excited about those as opportunities to be able to really address a community-wide problem or issue that's only heightened with the pandemic. More people are suffering from mental illness and substance use, and this is a good way to help partner and bring that together.
I think it's so critical the way that you're approaching this, the way the Department of Health, and I think with the new mayor in the city and county of Honolulu, it's going to be exciting to see what we can do if we're all kind of working at this collaboratively. A great lesson that we've learned from this pandemic. We have a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to give you this opportunity to further embarrass Director Cathy Betts. I know you work directly with her. Medicaid is a division under Department of Human Services, but do you want to say anything to Director Betts, who's not here to defend herself? We're not letting her defend herself.
Yes. I have, it's been such a pleasure to work with and for Director Cathy Betts. I worked with her for a number of years because she served as she was the executive director of the Commission on the Status of Women, as well as the deputy director. And so, I've known her for a few years here, and it's rare to find a person with that level of commitment and passion, and just she cares about these services at the depth of her soul, and she's a mom, and I think that makes a difference in just how she approaches and how she thinks about the impact of our services on families and on children, because she knows it firsthand. So it's been a pleasure, and I'm so honored to be able to have the chance to work with her. And thanks for that opportunity to embarrass her.
I have the pleasure to work with you and Director Betts. So thank you for all your service to Hawaii and to Hawaii's people. We really do need you to stay there as long as possible at DHS, please. I want to thank
commitment here. Yeah. Thank you.
I want to thank Chair Ichiyama, Director Cathy Betts, Representatives Nishimoto and Kobayashi for joining me on this 4th episode of Season 2, Talk Story with House Majority. If you enjoyed this segment of Talk Story, or if you have an issue or story you'd like me to dive into for a future episode, please email me at repbalati@capitol.hawaii.gov. Please follow the House Majority on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at High House Dems for the most current news, events, and updates from the State House. You can also visit our website at hawaiihousedemocrats.com, which has great resources, news stories, and valuable information about the House Majority and the 2021 legislative session. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay informed. Wear your mask in public, and remember to follow good social distancing and hygiene guidelines. We will see you here 2 Fridays from now to Talk Story with House Majority. Aloha.